You have three types of dwelling policies. You have a DP1, your basic policy, a DP2, your broad, and a DP3, your special. Think of the dwelling policies as icing on the cake. First, you have the cake, which is your DP1. Then you have DP2, just like your DP1, but with more coverages, so it's actually better than the DP1. It's icing on the cake. Then you have DP3, which is better than DP2. So it's the cake, the icing, and the sprinkles. That should help you visualize your dwelling policies. We are going to go over each dwelling policy, but first I want you to see the structure. So we talked about this just recently, the structure of dwelling policies. Each dwelling policy will have coverage A. And if you look in there, you'll see I put in parentheses DP1, DP2, and DP3 will have coverage A. And the coverage A will cover policy limits. So if the policy limits were $100,000 and it paid out replacement cost value, then it will pay $100,000 if there's damage to the structure. Coverage B is for DP1, DP2, and DP3 as well. And those are your other structures. And remember, those are structures that are not attached. They're unattached structures, and they will pay 10% of coverage A. You have coverage C, also included in DP1, DP2, and DP3, which is your personal property. And remember, personal property covers 50% of coverage A on premises, but it also covers 10% of coverage C away from the premises. Then you have coverage D, which is DP1, DP2, and DP3 as well. And that is the fair rental value. If somebody moves out of your rental property, it will pay 20% of coverage A. Then you have coverage E. Coverage E is only qualified for DP2 and DP3. DP1 does not qualify for additional living expenses. So it's DP2 and DP3 are better than DP1 in that aspect. And that will also pay 20% of coverage A. Now let's talk about specific dwelling forms. So this is just a brief overview of what we're going to go over. You have three types of dwelling forms. All forms contain some of the same general exclusions and conditions. The difference between the forms are the perils that are covered. So you will see that in a DP1, you have the perils of fire, lightning, removal. Plus you have other perils, extended coverage endorsement perils, which we're going to go over that next. DP2 includes all of what's covered in DP1 plus additional perils. And then DP3, that's treated a little bit differently because it's not it's an open peril policy. It's not a named peril policy. DP1 and DP2 are named perils. Before the structure of a special form policy, it is an all risk or open peril policy, meaning everything's covered other than what's excluded. Personal property, on the other hand, is not going to be an open peril policy. So we're going to go over that in detail so you don't get confused. So let's just first talk about your basic form, your DP1. It's a named peril policy. I got a little sketch on the side here. Some people understand with visualizing it. So this is coverage A and coverage B, and that's coverage C. So that's structure, other structures, and personal property. It's a named peril policy. And what does that mean? That means that whatever's covered has to be named. Whatever peril would be covered in that policy has to be named. What's not covered is because if it's not covered, it's because it's not named or it's excluded. and the claims are paid out at an actual cash value. The actual cash value is the depreciated value of an asset. So coverages A, B, C, and D all qualify for a basic form. There is no coverage E. And the perils named in the policy are going to be your standard fire policy perils: fire, lightning, and removal. Internal explosion is also included in that, and that comes with, because of fire, lightning, or those. You have your ECE. ECE stands for Extended Coverage Endorsements. So what are extended coverage endorsements? This is an extension in property insurance that allows for coverages beyond your standard fire policy perils. These coverages are built into the dwelling policy, so it's nothing that needs to be added. So you're going to want to know and hopefully memorize these perils and have some I have some acronyms for you so that it will help you. And that here is your wharves. So if you look, you have your wharves with the double V. So the wharves stand for wind for the W, hail, aircraft, riot and civil commotion, vehicles, volcanic eruptions, explosion, and smoke. If you memorize your wharves, then that's going to be another step that you don't have to worry about. So there's the acronym wharves, and it's wind, hail, aircraft, riot and civil commotions, vehicles, volcanic eruption, explosion, and smoke. That means that if there is the peril of wind damages your property, it would be covered because it's a named peril policy, and that is named in a basic form policy. The peril of hail damages your property, it's covered. Aircrafts, if an aircraft falls on your home or your dwelling, it would be covered because it's listed in your wharves. If your dwelling is damaged because of a riot and civil commotion, it's going to be covered. It's listed in your wharves. If a vehicle runs into your property, it is covered. The exception to this rule is if it's your own vehicle, it's not going to cover the vehicle. Your home is not going to your home is going to be covered because vehicles is covered. So the peril of vehicles is going to be covered under your basic form. Then volcanic eruption, where most of those, some places there are volcanic eruptions and some places there are not, but if there are, it would be covered. Explosions are covered, and smoke. So usually smoke is going to be because of a fire. Smoke is covered. That is your DP1. Now remember, your DP1 is got basic coverages. Your DP2 has better coverages than a DP1. And a DP3 is a better coverage. It's got better coverages than a DP1 and a DP2. So your DP2 is also a named peril policy, meaning that it's only covered if the peril is listed in the insuring agreement. The claims are paid out on a replacement cost basis. This is different from your basic. Basic paid it out at an actual cash value. So on a DP2, under coverages A and coverages B, that's your structure and other structures, claims are paid out at a replacement cost value, what it costs to replace your home. So coverages A, B, C, D, and E are all qualified under this broad form. The perils named in the policy are going to be the same perils that were on your basic form, and it'll include more perils. So you have your fire, your lightning, your internal explosion and removal. Then you have your extended coverage endorsements that we talked about, your wharves, wind, hail, Aircraft, riot and civil commotion, vehicles, volcanic eruption, explosion, and smoke. You also have what's called VMM, vandalism and malicious mischief. This was not included in a DP1, but it is now in a DP2. And then you have what's called, learned a abbreviation for it would be big effect, or an acronym. So big effect, B stands for burglary damage. I, the weight of ice and snow. G, glass breakage. A, accidental discharge or overflow of water. F, falling objects. F, freezing of plumbing. E, electrical damage. C, collapse. T is pretty broad. It's tearing apart, including cracking, burning, steam, heating, air systems. So you have big effects, and those are additional perils covered on a broad form DP2. So coverage C, on the other hand, is not a replacement cost value. It will pay at actual cash value. Coverage C, personal property is still going to pay out for your property at the depreciated actual cash value. Remember that. Now let's talk about a DP3. You have your DP3 special form, better than a DP1, better than a DP2. Coverage A and B, your structure and other structures are going to be covered under an open peril policy. All risks, everything's covered in this coverage other than what is excluded. So usually you're going to have a lot of more exclusions than you would on a DP1 and a DP2 because everything's covered. But coverage C, your personal property, it's still named perils. So do not confuse. This special form is not completely all risks, just for coverages A, B, your structure and other structures. Coverage C is a named peril. So the named peril policies that are listed in DP2 are the same perils that are going to be covered in Part C of a dwelling policy for DP3. So remember, in the DP2, you had your basic standard fire policy perils, you had extended coverage endorsement perils, which were your wharves, you had VMM, vandalism and malicious mischief, and you had the acronym BIG effect. To go over those are still going to be covered on a special form coverage C, personal property. Okay, everything's not covered. It's not an open peril for your personal property. It's only open peril for coverages A and B. So what you want to do, it'll help you to memorize these perils that are covered if you learn the big effect and the VMM and the ECE, the wharves. It's going to help you to memorize them.